Good afternoon and welcome. It's a great pleasure to have two special guests today. One guest is based in South Africa, and she is based in Port Elizabeth. Belinda has been a meditator for over 3 decades. And she has a great wealth of knowledge, wisdom, experience. And Aldous, he is based in Holland. And tonight they will have a dialogue around important aspects of spirituality, which is entitled Eternal Questions. And I will invite Aldous to ask the questions, and I believe the answers will come from both of them. So very warm welcome to everyone.
Shanti, thank you, Ivana, for your kind introduction. And lovely to be with you, Belinda.
Yes,
It's
lovely
great.
to be with you too.
It's great to connect, even though we are not even in the same on the same continent, isn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, I will ask you a series of questions that I've found interesting for thinking about for myself, actually. But then I thought there are many people who are on the spiritual path, and they might have their answers too on these questions. And I would like to start with kind of like an intro question. Usually when people come on a spiritual path, something might have happened for them. That's the reason that they come. Maybe they got some unhappiness, or maybe they were looking for something. Was that also the case for you, Belinda, when you came many decades ago? Was there something going on in your life at that moment?
Yes, this is a familiar question to me because often people feel that it's some kind of challenge or pain that sort of pushes them to find answers. But in my case, actually, this was not what happened. I always feel that I was quite happy in my life. I had a very busy life, but I was always curious about spiritual things. So even in my sort of traditional religion, I would search for the more esoteric approach to religion, and always, many questions in my mind. And I suppose if I really think about it, I was searching for something. I had joined a group that met once a month to study various spiritual philosophies, to practice meditation. And it was actually through that particular group that I eventually came to the Brahma Kumaris. And I remember the first day that I met the students and the teacher that was in my city at that time. It was a seminar, and the topic was the transforming power of love. And the person who was, there were many speakers, but the person from the Brahma Kumaris who was speaking really caught my attention. But it was actually the meditation at the end of the talk that transported me into what I can only describe as similar to a near-death experience. Obviously, there was nothing wrong with me, but it was a profound experience. And I had a sense of meeting God. I don't quite know how you describe that because it is such a subtle experience. And together with that, I had the experience of God's light entering the soul and being used for the world. All very subtle ideas, and it took me a while to be able to even verbalize it. But, you know, as often you hear when people have these extraordinary experiences, it changes them forever. And that was my experience. I was changed.
Yeah, I can also imagine that it was a quite flabbergasting experience without you expecting anything to happen. You go to a seminar or a talk, and then you're having this kind of esoteric but also elevated experience that you're not even having words for it to describe it. It must be quite something to experience, and then to let it sink over a period of time, to be able to verbalize it. Now that you have been on this journey for so long, and before that, of course, you had a life as well, because you're a mother. I know you're having, I think, 2 beautiful daughters. I think 2, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So you had already a life, and then you embraced the spiritual life for more than 3 decades. What has life taught you so far, in brief? A few things that, looking back at life so far, you have been taught.
I think one of the most important lessons is that the universe is benevolent, that even when we go through very challenging times, that if we approach it from a spiritual perspective with the understanding that everything is a lesson, and that lesson is for your benefit, and then just really trusting that it's going to move you and those around you, perhaps those that you love, in a very positive direction, even when it doesn't look like it. So that having that conviction helped me to go through my challenges without ever losing hope, and always feeling that
this is a call for you
I was moving towards the light.
to your nature of innocence, to your nature of complete purity, to let go of the false beliefs.
Yeah, I think we're hearing some background sounds. Maybe Ioana is able to mute herself.
You will not leave anyone behind. Everyone is now in the process of becoming pure once again, becoming
I don't
self-conscious
think
once
she can
again,
hear us.
becoming an angel.
Is Ioana able
Such
to
a
hear
nature
us?
is a nature of a very good student. To
Perhaps
remember
just to
that
type
nature,
something in the chat, Aldous. That's
If
better.
Ioana can mute her sound, because we are hearing the recordings from Ioana. Is that possible? Ioana?
The sound is gone from my side.
Yeah,
Aldous.
but in case she opens it again, yeah,
Okay. All right.
yes, she's muted. Sorry, Belinda, we got cut off, but you were saying the universe is beneficial. Every
The
lesson
universe is
is
beneficial.
every lesson that is coming is for your own benefit, and trusting that that's the process. Is there anything else that life has taught you so far?
I think that kind of underpins just about everything, but I think also another great lesson was learning to trust myself. So trusting that the universe is benevolent, but also trusting the self. I definitely was much more dependent on the opinion of others for a long period of time in my life. And not necessarily in a very gross way, but I knew that it was there because when the opinion of others was not good, it would affect me. Or I would see myself being influenced towards a decision that was not aligned with my personal values and ethics. So that was a great journey to really begin to trust myself. And it didn't happen overnight. And it was a question of experimenting, having the courage to make, first of all, small decisions just based on my own feelings, my own understanding, my own intuition, and then slowly seeing that actually it worked, that actually I could be trusted, not by others, but by myself. And that has made a huge difference in my life.
I think that's also a very, very big topic for all of us, if not for majority of people, how to trust oneself and how I should, as you're saying, take a small step each time. It won't go overnight, but every small step that we take, it's gonna help to empower the self. Do you think that, well, you have been talking about your life and what you have been going through a little bit. I know, of course, a bit more about you, but we'll leave that to you, how much you want to share. But do you think that this life, as you have been going through it, do you think this is all there is, or is there more after this life?
Wow, that's a very interesting question. I from where I am now, my life is very much directed by my idea of the future. Because the understanding of the eternity of the soul, the continuity of the soul, the spiritual being that is me, because that is very firm and deep within me. So as I'm leading my life, and that includes, how I think, what my feelings are, the attitude that I carry with me, the way I see things, and of course, the actions or the decisions that I make to act. They are all very important for me because I feel it's an investment for the soul, not just in this one life. In this one life, if we can make our being more elevated, guided by higher principles, it is going to bring its fruit in this life, definitely. And I've experienced that, how over the years of practice, I feel lighter, I feel less influenced by negativity, and more resilient, stronger. And all of that is in this life. But it's not only for this life. Our understanding in the Brahma Kumaris is that the only thing that we take with us when it's time to exit is the record that is within the soul of our nature, our personality, the quality of actions that we perform. It's like a microchip that carries a record. And so for me, it's very important that what I carry with me are the things that I want to be part of me, not the things that I don't want. I don't want to carry anger or a tendency to judge and criticize. I'm just giving a few examples. I would like to be free from all of that as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, it's a beautiful approach, because what I'm hearing you saying is also that it's a conscious choice. It's one side, it's the understanding that there is a continuity of the spiritual self that is connected with the future. So your focus is on the future because you have understood that there is a part of that, of the self, that eternal being that continues. And then the second part, what you're sharing about, is what do I want to take with me? It's kind of like a very conscious question to the self, like, what do I want to be part of me? If there is a future, if there is a future me, let me create it. And how do I do it? By consciously thinking about the things that you're saying and examples that you're giving. So that leads us to the next question, which is quite intertwined with this one. It's, how do you understand the concept of karma in terms of cause and effect?
Oh, yes.
If you can address it in brief, but yeah,
Yeah.
it would be good to hear you.
How to address it in brief? Let me think. So we've all heard this expression, and very often people will use the word karma quite loosely. And generally, if something negative happens, then people say, oh, it's your karma. But it's so important to really understand that karma just means action. And so action is either negative or positive. And what makes a positive action is not the act itself. I may be, doing something kind towards someone, but perhaps my intention is not so kind. Maybe my intention is that I want something back from that person, and that's why I'm being kind. So it's really important for us that when we think about this good action that we would like to perform, because we understand that every action has an equal and reaction to it. So it's very, very important, the intention behind the action. And sometimes the action may not even look like a good action, but the intention is pure. And so that automatically ensures that the act will be a positive act. And why is that action so important? Because every act is leaving an impression on the soul, and that impression becomes the nature, the personality of the individual. So any action repeated, if I get angry consistently, unfortunately, I develop that nature or that personality of anger. So what kind of personality would I like? Then I think about my actions. because I am the creator. I'm the architect of my own self. But my actions are creating, they're the building blocks of that self. And so a simple, well, a very brief answer to a deep question.
Yeah, but very, very profound at the same time. Sometimes we don't know what is right and wrong anymore because there is so much going on outside, but also inside of us, that it's kind of like not so clear. Even if we would have the intention to do the right thing, the self might be in a position to think like, okay, let me do the right thing. We might not know what is right and wrong. So what is your moral code in relation to right and wrong? How do you know when you're doing the right thing or you're having the right intention or not?
I think that we need to do some personal work on the self, because each one of us has a beautiful guiding light, which we call the conscience. But we haven't been very good at listening to the conscience. And when you don't listen to the conscience, it goes to sleep. It says, okay, you don't need me. I'll step back. So the work that I feel is required is that we need to consciously awaken the conscience. And we do that by developing self-awareness, checking ourselves when we're going to react to something, to just pause for a moment and check in. Is this action or are these words going to take me towards my higher aim or not? And first of all, we need to have a higher aim. We need to aim to be the best version of ourselves, to close the gap between who I am currently and the person that I would like to be. So we need to consciously close that gap and awaken the conscience, because just a little bit of effort will activate the conscience, perhaps in small things. Let's say we're about to tell a little white lie. Nobody will know and it's not going to harm anybody. But suddenly you ask yourself, but is this good for me? And the answer is no, because one day, perhaps it won't be a little white lie. Perhaps it'll be a bigger lie that will, take me into a place that I don't want to be. Maybe it will harm others inadvertently. So just, paying attention to the self and then developing that conscience, checking in. How does it feel? Does this feel right? And perhaps initially there is some confusion because you're not really in touch with those feelings. But with time, it increases. And then, often we'll say, I had a gut feeling. Well, that's also our intuition getting activated. And it's not really coming from the gut. It's actually coming from the soul. And it's telling us that this action is okay or this action is not okay. And it becomes, then that conscience becomes our guiding light. And then the chances of us performing a higher quality of action, which will bring a positive result for the soul, is greatly increased.
I like what you're sharing about how each one of us needs to do some inner work. And if anyone is watching this and wondering what the inner work is, you can visit our website, brahmakumaris.org, and find our centers near to you, and meditation practices that we offer, so that you know how to connect with your inner self and how to train, as you're saying, Belinda, how to train that inner muscle of intuition or conscience that we have so often, not if I speak for myself, we have so often neglected, that it's kind of like fallen asleep. So it needs a bit of shaking to wake up again. And I was also enjoying the questions that you just gave now as entry points. Even if someone wants to start today, they can start right now with these questions. Is what I'm going, if is whatever action I'm taking now, is that going to help my aim and my purpose as a personality, as a person? Is this going to help my higher self, or is it bringing me down, more down the spiral downwards? And yes, it can be as little as you said, with a white lie, but then the habit of telling a lie is getting increased in the self. So next time, it doesn't really matter. It's very easy to tell a lie, because that is which was stored in the consciousness, as it were. So all of this on one side. What has God to do with this? What is your concept of God? Is there a concept of God? Because often there are many ideologies about God, whether people believe or don't believe. And some people blame him. Some people think that the life depends on him. Some people think that they're getting things from him, and if they don't get something, he's punishing them. So what is your concept of God? How do you perceive her or him?
So, we started our discussion earlier, and I said that I think I was looking for something. So it was I probably was looking for God. In my mind, I saw it as truth. I was looking for truth, but I did kind of connect the two together. And it's so interesting that we might look for God and not even know what it is actually. And yet, somewhere deep in the psyche, there's this feeling that it would be beneficial to find God. It's strange, isn't it? We don't know, but it feels like, yes, it would be the right thing, or beneficial. And so my relationship with God has been over so many years, and it has gone through so many different stages. But now my relationship with God is that God is the closest being to my heart. God knows me absolutely intimately. Not that he can read my mind, no, but he knows my deep intention. And there's such a beautiful feeling that he's supporting that intention, which is connected with that higher aim that we were talking about. And that means that he approves of it, that he supports it. And I'm saying he, but, we just use it because we can't say it. But God is a powerful and loving Father, but equally a very compassionate and gentle mother. So relationship for me is very important. But if we've got time, I just want to tell one of the stages that I went through with God, because I don't think I came to this current relationship without going through
Yes, go
humps
ahead,
and
please.
bumps along the way.
Yes, please go
So,
ahead. Practical experiences are always
so
useful.
yeah, I think, Aldous, you know that many years ago now, I went through the journey of cancer. And I found when I was going through that, I was very surprised that I was very angry. And I was angry with many people, but I was especially angry with God. And I can smile now, but I was very angry with God. And once I kind of recovered a little bit from that anger, then I started to ask myself, why? Why was the anger projected on God? And what I realized, which was such an invaluable lesson, was that I was angry with God because I had consciously given my life to what I saw as God's task. And I wanted to be part of that, and I gave myself fully to that. And then something like cancer comes along. And I felt that God had let me down. Oh, what was this that I had to go through quite difficult, and I'm just using words, but it was a very big challenge. Why should I have to go through that? Why couldn't God have done something? So when I realized this, I also realized a key, that I had been making deals with God. I'll do this, then you do that. And one thing for sure I know, God never makes deals. He's not a merchant. And so that was so important for me, because I was able to answer a question that had always really, it was like always there. And that was, what can God do and what can God not do? Now, a lot of people would say, well, God can do anything. That's not true. We go through things because they are accounts for us to settle. Call it karma or a bank balance, whatever it is. But we have to go through certain things, and God cannot prevent that. But what he can do, and he did do in my case, was to help me to go through that, to have the strength to go through, but also to turn that experience into one of the greatest lessons of my life. Because it changed me in so many ways. I often ask myself, could I have brought those changes without cancer? And for me, maybe different for others, but for me, answer is no. It was the catapult, it was the force that pushed me to go beyond the things that I would probably never have seen in myself even. So that changed my relationship with God. And then I was able to work with God like a partner, knowing what he can do and what he can't do. For me, it was so, so important to know the difference.
Yeah, also beautiful to hear your personal experience or lesson. You mentioned accounts to settle, name it what you want. I like to see them as lessons to learn and exams to pass. It's somehow, or games to play better. It somehow brings some kind of a student attitude from within, or a fun attitude to play the game, to learn the rules of the game. Like every game has its own set of rules, and if you play by rules, you win. And it sounds like you definitely have won, not in one aspect because you're healthy now, but also on a deeper aspect, on a spiritual aspect, on a spiritual level, you have gained more clarity for yourself about the concept of God and the relationship that you can have with God in this time and age. So it sounds like a win-win in a way, from where I'm standing at least. I'm having one more question and a brief meditation with you, but I will give you some guidance about the meditation. The last question, and it can be in a few lines. What advice or words of wisdom would you like to pass on the next generations to come?
Wow. Embark on a journey that will take you back to yourself. Life and the world has had so much influence on us at a very deep level that we have lost all sense of our true self. Whatever it takes, embark on that journey, because you will find what you're looking for. And when you find that authentic self, that reality of who you really are, it is a guarantee that it will be something that will bring you all the peace, all the joy, all the love that we have ever searched for.
That's a beautiful piece of advice. I'm seeing one question that we can take, I believe, before we close. The questioner is saying, maybe get an idea about the image that of what God is like in your mind. Is he a being or an entity with choices, or an internal power or light that guides us with no manifested form, or something else? Do you want me to repeat?
No, I think it's okay.
Okay.
For me, it's for me to understand the nature of God, even the form of God. I have to know myself first. It's like the door through which I can know the one who is infinitely subtle. And so I need to take the steps to become subtle myself. And that means to come into the awareness of the invisible self, the consciousness, the soul, the spirit, to come into that awareness and then to explore who is God. And in that awareness, for me, God is a being in the same way that I'm a being, not a physical being. I'm that being of light. And so God is not visible to the physical eye, and yet there is a form, and that form is infinitesimal light. And that's quite a challenge for us, because we are such visual beings that we need some image that's physical. So to understand that God's form is very, very subtle, and yet it is there. And God has his own personality, but he also has his own role. He has a very specific role, and he plays that role, and he doesn't deviate from that role. And his current role, the most important role at this time, is to help us to awaken. He has the knowledge and he has the power to help us to actually do that, to awaken from the illusion of the physical world. Yes, the physical world is there, but it is not the only reality. In fact, it is a very temporary reality. And only God can awaken us to these very deep understandings of the world, not just at a physical level, but at a spiritual level, at a subtle level. There is so much to learn and to understand. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm sure they can take benefit from what the answer that you gave. And actually, I'm looking at they're appreciating your answer. I'm also looking at the image behind you, which is kind of like a symbol that we use at the Brahma Kumaris and the inner space centers that we have, to remind us of the shape of light, of the form of light, as a symbol of the being that we are in essence, and the being that that God, the divine being, is. So that's also helpful to meditate on. The last question, you touched a bit on it, but we would like to have an experience with you. How do you find peace within yourself? If you can guide us in 2 minutes, in a 2-minute meditation of your favorite practice, of how you find peace within yourself. And
Yeah. So firstly, we just, wherever we are, just to sit comfortably and relax, because we want to turn our attention inwards, away from everything physical. The first thing that meets us are our thoughts. Let's for a moment just choose our thoughts. Who am I? I am a being of light. Behind this body, there is the master of the self, the sovereign self, so pure, so loving, so peaceful. We see the light that is the self against the backdrop of a beautiful golden sky. Just the tiny star, so silent, so still. This is the real self. Before the body and after the body. I come back to this point at any moment in my day, and here I find the inner lake of peace, of stillness. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Belinda, for your open and profound answers. It was a joy to be with you and to have this chit chat. And thank you also, Ivana, for hosting us. I'm giving back the mic to Ivana. to say the final words and maybe to share a website with all of the viewers in case they want to know more about what we do. Till next time, take good care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aldous.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Aldous. Thank you, Belinda. And very warm welcome to come again. It looks like this is a series, and maybe not every Sunday, but the next one will be on Sunday 22nd in 2 weeks' time. And the format is very enjoyable. Being able to ask questions and to get answers helps us to find our own answers. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.